Seems like the winter is finally long gone, and I hope that it will stay away. Seems like the winter.
And I will retire with the crown. Yes. No, I'm not lucky, I'm blessed.
Here we go. Not gonna mess this up.
Let's talk about witchcraft, magic, and hair. Oh, hair. So, I know all of you have heard about long hair. It's the source of your power and all that good stuff. And whether male or female, in general, witches and wizards have long hair. So I can still do witchcraft. I have short hair. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
But now I'm going to tell you the science behind why it is good to have long hair in the craft or as a magician. So on average, the human head has about 100,000 hairs on it. And the measurements I'm going to give you are based on an average human head of straight hair. Curly hair, the results is 1/3 more. Kinky hair, the results are double. So having long hair adds literally 5 times the surface area of your skin. It multiplies your surface area 5 times. Great, Jen. Thanks for the math lesson. What? Go to part 2.
Let's try this with Terradex. Show.
Calling all plant lovers, your oldest plant.
Okay, so there's this tarot spread you can do for yourself where you find the Fool in your deck and the card under it is the source of your problems and the card on top of it is the solution to your problem. So let's find the... Fuck. Okay, so there's this tarot...
Quick kitchen witch tip. If you want a simple way to infuse your intent into things that you're cooking, just think about it and stir clockwise. Clockwise infuses good things in, counterclockwise banishes bad things out. Quick kitchen.
These are some of my plants. This is...
So it's been a torrential downpour all day, and silly me, I just thought to put a jar out here to collect it, so oops. Forget the witch problems. Things in this former barista's kitchen that just make sense. This milk frother is a daily use item. It was like maybe... Hello, Witch Talk. I have been listening to this book on Audible while I've been going for walks. I'm enjoying it, but I would love some other recommendations.
Black neighborhoods are over-policed, so of course they...
I'm trying to read some tarot, and like this candle is doing weird things. It's a new candle, so like, but I haven't seen it do this before.
Tarot tip, find the Empress in your deck. The card behind her will tell you what you need to do in order to nurture and care for yourself. Tarot tip, find...
Anyone else shower their plants? My tropical plant.
Do other plants...
These guys are being so funny. There she is with her 3 babies. I cannot even believe she has. There she is. These guys are being so... There she is with her 3... Anyone else have jumpers when they're selecting cards and you put them back in the deck, and then when you pull the cards, they just come right back out because they were like, we were trying to tell you something for a reason. Anyone? Do you know your tarot soul card? Well, if you don't, I'm about to show you how to find it. This goes into numerology, and I'm finding it really interesting, so I wanted to share it with you guys. First, you're going to grab your birthday. I'm going to use today's date as an example. You take all the numbers from the month, date, and year, and you're going to add them all together. This should create a 4-digit number. Next, we add each of those digits together to create a new number. The goal here is to keep doing this adding of digits together until you get a single digit number that we can correlate with a card in the major arcana. We got a single digit number right off the bat. A 2-digit number, you just add those digits together to get a single number. If you get a 3-digit number, split it in half like this so you get a 2-digit number. Your soul card is supposed to represent your deepest self and can even reflect your soul's purpose across multiple lifetimes. Soul cards are just the beginning. I'm going to get into more in a part 2. Here's my soul card. What's yours? Do you know your tarot soul card? Well, if you don't, I'm about to show you how to find it. This goes into numerology, and I'm finding it really interesting. So
I was busy thinking about being.
Tarot birth cards part 2. Today we are going to address the personality card. I had a few people ask me about what to do with 2-digit numbers when you're reducing that still fall into the major arcana. And that is your personality card. Your personality card is exactly what it sounds like. It's your personality, the characteristics you were born with, the attributes that you develop in this lifetime. So if when you were reducing, you got a number between 10 and 22, congrats, that number is your personality card. If you only got a single digit number, that's okay too. It just means your soul card and personality card are one and the same. There are a couple neat instances that I want to make note of. The Fool is normally 0, which we can't really get when doing this, so he's represented by the number 22. Also, the number 19 is interesting because it reduces twice. It goes from 19 to 10 to 1. So if you have that one, you have 2 personality cards. There's still a lot more info to go over, so stay tuned for more parts to this series. This is my personality.
Hello tarot readers of TikTok. I want to try something that I don't think has been done before. We all know 2020 has been a bit of a mess.
Yes, so when you're reducing from your 4-digit number down to your single-digit number in order to find your soul card, some people go straight to a single-digit number, and some people have a 2-digit number that they get along the way. If that 2-digit number falls between 10 and 22, then it corresponds with cards in the major arcana, and that would be your personality card. So using my original examples, we had the date from the original one. This 4-digit number immediately went down to a 1-digit number. Here is the 4-digit number for my personal birthday. Mine reduces down to a 2-digit number that fits in the major arcana and then reduces down further to my soul card. Again, if you didn't get a personality card 2-digit number, that is okay. It just is the same as your soul card number, and I'm going to talk more about other 2-digit numbers in the major arcana later. Yes, you're totally right. I first started learning about this, I noticed there was 2 or 3 different ways to calculate a birth card number. I have since stumbled onto the works of Mary Greer, and she's gone, I think, the most in depth that I've seen about kind of how this unfolds in a person's life. And so I'm basing the information that I am sharing here based on her work. If you guys want to go more in depth on this on your own, you can feel free to look up her works. She's got like 2 or 3 different books about this topic specifically, and then she's got like lots of other tarot books as well. She's pretty well renowned in the tarot community. I will put the book names that I know of that go into this up here for you guys to look at if you are curious. I haven't read all these books because I'm still waiting for them to come in, but I'm super excited to dig through all of them when I can get them. Yes. Excuse the wet hair, I just got out of the shower, but this question was important and I wanted to answer it. So depending on which tarot deck style you use, there are a couple differences between the decks. Specifically, the Thoth deck has different names for a couple of the cards, and the Tarot de Marseille and the Rider-Waite-Smith have different numberings for the Strength and the Justice card. I already mentioned that this is Mary Greer's work, and she uses the Rider-Waite-Smith version, which has Strength as 8 and Justice as 11. I also think this makes way more sense when you look at the tarot constellations, which I'm going to show you guys next. So that's my personal preference. But if you love the Tarot de Marseille and that's all you know, then like you can go with that. That's okay. The whole point of this series is that it's supposed to be a self-development tool and help you reflect on yourself more. So if you're not connecting to the cards because you use Tarot de Marseille, then go with that. So I hope that cleared some things up and was helpful for you guys. Excuse the wet hair. Tarot birth cards, part 3. So I want to get into shadow cards and lesson cards, but first we need to talk about tarot constellation. So we already talked about the soul card and the personality card, and we know that the personality card is usually one of the 2-digit major arcana numbers that reduces down to your core soul number. But you may have noticed that there are multiple ways to get to some of the core numbers that still fit within the major arcana. This is because each core soul number has an entire constellation that goes through the tarot. So I've written out all the different constellations, and you can see which cards are in each constellation. So this includes all the major arcana as well as the minor arcana pip cards. You may notice that there's some similar themes in each constellation, such as Justice and Judgment are both in the constellation of the High Priestess. So take a good look at your constellation. One is your soul card, one might be your personality card, and there might be another that you never got. More in part 4. Tarot birth cards, part.
Take your dominant hand and look underneath your pinky. If you see little vertical marks below your pinky going straight up and down, it means that you're a natural healer. If you have 4 or more, you could be a career healer. Take your dominant hand and look underneath your pinky. If you see little vertical marks below your pinky going straight up and down, it means that you're a natural healer. If you have 4 or more, you could be a career healer. Take your dominant hand and look underneath your pinky. If you see little vertical marks below your pinky going straight up and down, it means that you're a natural healer. If you have 4 or more, you could be a career healer. Take your dominant hand and look under
Tarot birth cards, part 4. Today we're going to find your shadow card. Yes, this is the same shadow that people are talking about when they are talking about shadow work or the shadow self. It's a hidden part of ourselves that we don't see right away and has a lot that it can teach us. I introduced you guys to these constellations last time, and I want you to find your constellation and find any cards in the major arcana that did not come up for you when you were calculating for your soul card. For example, I got 12 and then 3 when calculating, but I never got 21. This card will be your shadow card. Some people will have 2, some people will have 1, and some people will have none. If you're one of the people that has none and you got all the major arcana cards possible, then trust me, your personality card already has shadow aspects in it that you can explore. This card mainly functions as a teacher once you're willing to acknowledge your shadow. This is my shadow card. Let me know yours and stay tuned for part 5. Tarot birth card. So if you went straight from a 4-digit number down to a single-digit number, then that means your soul card and your personality card are the same, but whatever cards are missing are the shadow cards. The shadow cards are the shadow cards because they're hidden. They're the ones that don't show up during your calculating at all. So depending on what the soul number is, that will determine the constellation. Some of the constellations have more cards in them than others, so it's more likely to get 1 or more shadow cards. Some people don't get a shadow card and their shadow card is kind of hidden in their personality card. But everyone has shadow aspects they can work on, trust me. I see the cards as all having lessons they can teach us, but with the shadow cards they can be very powerful because they're things that we don't like to look at, they're things that we don't like to acknowledge, so when we do start acknowledging them, they can make a big difference. I hope that explains things a little better and gives you some more insight. Tarot birth cards, part 4. Today, we're going to find your shadow card. Yes, this is the same shadow that people are talking about when they are talking about shadow work or the shadow self. It's a hidden part of ourselves that we don't see right away and has a lot that it can teach us. I introduced you guys to these constellations last time, and I want you to find your constellation and find So if you went straight from a 4-digit number, yes, I couldn't fit this in the video, but this is a very, very specific instance. If you get the number 19 when you're doing your calculations, it reduces to 10 and then reduces to 1. This gives you all the major arcana cards that you can possibly get in the constellation of the Magician, but the sun doesn't really have any dark elements to it. In this one specific instance, the Wheel of Fortune acts as your teacher card. And Mary Greer specifically calls it a teacher card in this case because it's not hidden. It showed up when you were doing your reducing. In this specific instance, the shadow qualities aren't emphasized as much. You might feel like life just brings you the lessons you need to learn as you need to learn them in order to achieve your life's purpose. At the worst, you might lack the determination that is normally developed by facing a shadow, and it kind of makes you just drift through life, which in itself is something to be aware of. Yes, so this is all based on Mary Greer's work. She has a few books that I mentioned in another video comment, but I'll put them up again. Tarot for Yourself and Who Are You in the Tarot are both still in print and available. You can get them online or at your local bookshop, preferably. I have also seen reference to a book by her called Tarot Mirrors, but I haven't found much about it. The original book that I know about is called Tarot Constellations, and it is unfortunately out of print, so if you can find a copy, that's great, but if you want to buy a copy, it's probably very overpriced. That being said, it may be possible to Google Tarot Constellations PDF and possibly a free PDF shows up for you to read for free. Just saying, might be worth a shot. I love that you guys are so interested in this because I'm super interested in this, and I hope this helped. Yeah. Someone asked a similar question and I answered in the video that you should use the system that you feel most confident with. Mary Greer based this off the Rider-Waite-Smith version, so it's recommended to go with that one unless you are very experienced or very comfortable or confident using the Tarot de Marseille system. So these constellations are the ones using Rider-Waite-Smith. So if you got 8, this would be your constellation. It's important to note that your number won't change. Your number is still going to be 8. Your number just is what it is. But if you choose to go with the Tarot de Marseille version, then that would mean that Strength would fall into this constellation and Justice would be the leader of Constellation 8. And this is why I prefer the Rider-Waite-Smith system too, because these themes just go together better to me than if you swap strength and justice. Someone asked a similar question.
I really like this question because it made me think and revisit the whole concept. At its core, a soul card is an archetype. All of the major arcana cards are all archetypes. An archetype is a culmination of eternal characteristics of what it means to be human. Things that humans have been feeling and dealing with for all of humanity. Archetypes are the way that we interpret the world and see patterns around us. Our brains are literally wired to understand archetypes. For example, when children are learning about the world around them, they develop archetypes of what a dog means. Dogs come in a ton of colors and shapes and sizes, and they all look completely different, but you know what a dog is when you see it because it matches your archetype of a dog. In the same way, these soul cards represent an archetype that is in our lives, this theme that is emerging in our individual lives. I really like this question because it made me think and revisit the whole concept.
Tarot Birth Cards Part 5. Today we're going to go into the Minor Arcana and go through the Lesson and Opportunities cards. So here are our constellations again. We know that each soul card represents an entire constellation, and in that constellation are the corresponding Minor Arcana numbers. If you have the 9s, you have the 9s. If you're in the constellation of 8, you have the 8s. 7, 7, 6, 6. You get it, right? These cards will represent where you're likely to have blocks and challenges, as well as where your personal gifts and opportunities lie. The experiences shown in these cards give us lessons to develop our personality, and they give us the opportunities that are most likely to line up and express our soul's purpose. One important one to note is the Magician constellation does have both the aces and the 10s, since it contains the Magician and the Wheel of Fortune. If you're in that constellation, you get extra lessons and extra opportunities. Here's my lesson and opportunity cards. Tarot Birth Cards. I'm going to show you guys an example of how to find your constellation and your cards. Here's the date we're going to start with. We add all the numbers together to get our big number, and then we add all of the digits together and keep doing that down and down until we have one number. Separate out any numbers that are above 22. This single digit represents the constellation we're going to be working with. So here we can see that that's the first constellation of the Magician. So that makes our soul card the Magician here. Any remaining numbers that are under 22 represent the personality card. So here we got the Wheel. For the Shadow card, we're going to go back to the constellation and find any major arcana numbers that are missing. So here, the Sun is missing from our calculations. We never got the number 19. The Minor Arcana numbers associated with your constellation will serve as your lesson or opportunity cards. This constellation has both the aces and the 10s. But how? I'm going to show you guys. We're going to use this date as an example for how to calculate your tarot birth cards. You're going to add all the numbers together to form your big number, and then add each of those digits together to form your next number. We got a single digit number right away, so we're just going to separate away from that other number. And now we're going to figure out these. Our constellation is the constellation number 8. Here we can see all the cards that are in that constellation. Strength is the soul card in that constellation. So we're going to put that there. Since this is the only number we got, it is also going to serve as our personality card. So the soul and personality are the same. The Shadow card is the cards that are missing from the major arcana. So in this constellation, the number 17 was missing from our calculations. That makes the Star our Shadow card in this example. The lesson cards are the 8s of the Minor Arcana, so cups, coins, wands, and swords. Here you can see that the entire constellation is accounted for. Both major and minor arcana cards all fit and fill out this whole constellation. Here's an example of the process of calculating all your tarot birth cards using this date. Add up all your numbers into your 4-digit number. From here, you're going to add each of the digits together to form a number, and then add those digits together to form a number, etc., until you end up with a single digit number. From here, you're going to separate out any numbers that are over 22 away from the rest of the numbers. So here are our numbers 22 and below. This single digit number represents the constellation we will be working with. So this is the constellation of the Lovers. So that is going to be our soul card. After we find our soul card, we're going to find our personality card. To do this, we check for other numbers that came up during our calculating that are 22 and under. Here, the number 15 represents the Devil. For our shadow card, we check the constellation for any missing numbers. Here, we don't have any missing numbers, so the shadow card is the same as the personality card. And the lesson cards are the 6s of the minor arcana. Here's an example of the process of calculating all your tarot birth cards using this date. Add up all your numbers into your... Okay, so I've had a couple people ask this question now, so I thought I would do a video response to clarify. When you're looking at the numbers that come up in your calculating, you are only looking at the numbers that come up after your original 4-digit number. So it doesn't matter if 17 is the day you were born on, it doesn't matter if there's a 19 in the year that you were born. All you're looking at is after you add up your birth day, month, and year, you'll get a 4-digit number. You only want to look at the numbers that come after that. Specifically, any numbers that are 22 and lower. If there's any numbers that are 23 and up, we just ignore those numbers. They don't have anything that correlates to any of the cards in the constellation, so you just want to look after that 4-digit number. For any numbers 22 and below. I hope that explains it a little better. And that it helps you figure out what cards you have when you're calculating. Okay, so I've had a couple people ask this question now. Breaking down the Magician constellation in 60 seconds. The core number of this constellation is 1, and its motif is that of the outer or of the conscious self. It has the principles of will and focused consciousness. The minor aces and 10s are the lessons and opportunities card. The aces are opportunities to begin new things and your basic skills. The 10s are developed skills for meeting challenges and the results of taking principles to the extreme. Next, I'm going to go into some guided questions that you can use for shadow work or self-reflection based on the major arcana cards. For the Magician, you can ask, what is my personal magic? How do I focus and direct it? Who is my magical self? How can I use the elements in my life? How can I communicate in 4 ways? For the Wheel, ask, what is changing and how can I handle those changes? How can I alter my perspective? How do I reach my center and leave the ups and downs at the perimeter? For the Sun, ask, where can I find happiness? How can I experience joy and love? What do I reveal when I open myself up without restriction? Let me know if you have this constellation and which questions resonated with you. Breaking down the Magician constellation, the High Priestess constellation in 60 seconds. The core number of this constellation is 2, and its motif is the inner, the all-knowing self, Virgin. Its principle is balanced judgment through intuitive awareness. Its lesson and opportunity cards are the 2s of the minor arcana. These cards represent the 4 ways in which judgments are made. Next, I'm going to list off some questions associated with each major arcana card that you can use for self-reflection. The High Priestess is all about inner wisdom. How do I become aware of my own knowledge? What questions must I ask in order to know myself? How do I go within? What are my dreams or intuition trying to tell me? For Justice, what needs to be reconciled or adjusted? Where is justice needed? On what basis can I judge or evaluate? How can I be true to myself? And for Judgment, what does my purpose ask of me? How will I recognize my calling? What can I do to be part of a new eon and recognize my kinship with others? What needs to be resurrected in my life? Let me know if this was your constellation and which questions resonated with you the most. The High Priestess constellation in 60 seconds. Okay, this missing number thing seems to be confusing a bunch of people, so I'm going to try and explain it again and maybe in a different way so that you can get it. When we're looking at our constellations, we can see that every single number in that constellation is either the core number, so in 2, you have the 2s, or it reduces down to the core number, so both 11 and 20 reduce down to 2. And for some people, these numbers can show up in between their original sum and their single digit number. But with a few of the constellations, these ones in particular, it is actually impossible to get every single one. If you have 12, there's no way you could have also gotten 21. If you got 13, there's no way you could have also gotten 22. And so when you're looking at your numbers, you want to see which numbers showed up, and you also want to see which numbers did not show up. So this one had a single digit number. That means that at no point was 17 ever there. It never showed up, and that's the show. Okay, this missing number thing seems to be confusing. The Empress constellation in 60 seconds. The core number of this constellation is 3, and its motif is fertile, creative mother. Remember that we're dealing with archetypes here, so you can still be a man and get this constellation. It has the principles of love and creative imagination. The lesson and opportunity cards are the 3s of the minor arcana. The 3s indicate the opportunities and challenges to creatively demonstrate love. Next, I'm going to go into some questions for self-reflection based on the major arcana cards. For the Empress, ask, what am I giving birth to? How do I grow in beauty? What is rich and lush in my life? What surrounds me in my physical environment? What wants to creatively express itself through me? For the Hanged Man, ask, what is hanging me up or leaving me suspended? What must I see from a different perspective? What do I need to surrender to? Where must I be humble? And for the World, what do I have the potential to manifest? How can I express freedom within structure? How can I dance on my limitations? What is the whole of which I am part? This one's my constellation. Let me know if it's yours too, and which questions resonate. The Emperor constellation in 60 seconds. The core number of this constellation is 4, and the motif is ordered, structured father. Again, this is an archetype, so you can be a woman and still get this constellation. It has the principle of life force and the realization of power. The minor arcana 4s make up the lesson and opportunity cards. 4s indicate the opportunities to consolidate and complete something in preparation for renewal. Next up are some self-reflection questions based on the major arcana cards. For the Emperor, where does my power lie? How can I establish my own authority? What must I conquer within myself? In what direction have I chosen to focus my energies? For the Death card, what must I sever in order to grow anew? How can I release any unnecessary patterns? What will letting go relieve me of? Where do I go from here? And the Fool, where is my soul taking me? What is the wisdom in my folly? How am I being foolish? What must I trust to? How can I live more spontaneously and joyfully? Let me know if this is your constellation and which questions resonated with you. The Emperor. The Hierophant constellation in less than 60 seconds. The core number for this constellation is 5, and the motif is teacher, bearer of the word. It has the principle of teaching and learning. The minor arcana 5s represent the lesson and opportunity cards. 5s indicate the challenges faced when learning through experience. Next, we'll go into some questions for self-reflection based on the major arcana cards. For the Hierophant, ask, what do I need to learn from my problems? On what values do I base my decisions? What do I have to teach? What beliefs must I question? How do I learn? For Temperance, ask, what is my art? What things must I combine? How can I revive my interests and renew my spirit? How can I tap energy and resources for healing? This constellation is a bit smaller, so you might not have a dedicated shadow card, but as you can see, there's lessons we can learn from all of the cards. Let me know if this is your constellation and which questions resonated with you. The Hierophant constellation in the Lovers constellation in less than 60 seconds. The core number of this constellation is 6, and its motif is the twins' dual self. The principle of this constellation is relatedness and choice. The minor arcana 6s represent the lesson and opportunity card. 6s indicate the challenges of maintaining and sustaining relationships and of taking responsibility for your choices. Next, we'll go into some self-reflection questions based on the major arcana cards. For the Lovers, we can ask, how do I open myself and communicate my love? What choice do I have to make? How can I accept others for whom and what they are? What do I want and need from relationships? For the Devil, we can ask, what ambitions do I aspire to? What do I hate or fear? What does emotion bind me to? How do I free myself from these bonds? What knowledge will liberate my thinking? This is a smaller constellation, but still lots of powerful self-reflection that can be done. Let me know if this is your constellation and which questions resonated with you. The Lovers constellation. The Chariot constellation in less than 60 seconds. The core number for this constellation is 7, and the motif is hero warrior. It has the principle of mastery through change. The lesson and opportunity cards are the minor arcana 7s, and these cards test whether mastery and control can be sustained through change. Next are the self-reflection questions for the major arcana cards. For the Chariot, ask, what energies must I harness in order to move toward my goal? Where am I going? How can I control my instincts and keep myself centered? For the Tower, ask, how can I express my angers and aggressions? What must I do to break through constrictions? What personal barriers have I built up? What in my life needs liberating? This is a smaller constellation, but full of great cards for prompts. Let me know if this constellation is yours and which questions resonated with you. The Chariot People often ask me, hey, what's a houseplant that...
It's super.
The Strength constellation in less than 60 seconds. The core number for this constellation is 8, and its motif is Enchantress, animal nature, or animal helper. It has the principle of courage and self-esteem. The minor arcana 8s are the lessons and opportunity card. 8s indicate the gifts and challenges in developing the self-confidence to follow a vision. Next, we'll go into the self-reflection questions based on the major arcana cards. For strength, we have asking the beast in yourself, who are you? Where does my strength lie? Where can I use it? How can I balance power with love and lovingly express my power? How do I link myself to my desires? And for the star, ask, how can I experience my spirit more deeply? What does hope offer me? How do I make my dreams come true? What makes me truly free? Let me know if this is your constellation and which questions resonate with you. The Strength constellation in less than